What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So I just bought myself a piece of woodworking history. They don't make these anymore, and they haven't for a very, very long time. And it's crazy, man. Like, there's a lot of hand plane manufacturing companies out there still today. Lee Nielsen, I've bought a lot of their hand planes. Brand spanking new. Awesome planes. Veritas, also great planes. I have a few of those. Wood River is kind of like a notch below them. And then you have cheaper ones, like you have the newer Stanleys, which are cheap. Cobalt makes planes. And there's other companies as well, but they're all regular hand planes for making things flat. But what about for making something curved or have some sort of arc to it? So this is a tool that I've wanted for a very, very long time. I just couldn't justify buying it. It was something I was going to wait until I kind of really needed it, you know, because 160 to 180 bucks for a tool that you probably won't need that often is kind of a lot. But hand planes in general, yeah, they bring your work to the next level as a carpenter. Right? I'm not a master carpenter. I mean, I do it for a living, but I do plumbing, heating, finish carpentry. I mean, I do a lot of stuff. I'm like a jack of all, master of some kind of person. You know what I mean? I did get into carpentry a little bit. I built this desk that I'm sitting at just to prove to myself that I could do it before I started advertising to my boss that I knew how to do it. You know what I mean? And here's a couple of projects. You know, this is one of the first projects that had an arc to it that I had to do, but I don't really count this one because it was PVC, and PVC is like a wet noodle. You can just bend it, right? But there's a lot of this in Boston. A lot is these arcs. Not everything is perfectly square. But then I kind of moved on from there. I did these little nightstands, floating nightstands, and this is all in the same building that we did that burnt down. Besides the PVC thing, that was a different job. But yeah, I did floating nightstands here out of solid oak. I did custom shoe racks and stuff for inside the master closet. His and hers built-in bureaus built into the wall. But arcs, how do you cut arcs these days? Because this was kind of dropped in my lap. This was the second built-in I ever did in my life. And actually, the first one wasn't really a built-in. It was a bathroom vanity. I did a bathroom vanity. So I did a door and a cabinet carcass, right? I did that one, and then my boss was like, well, if you can do that, then you can do this. So here you go. Gave me a drawing, dropped it in my lap, and said, good luck. Are you done yet? Hurry up. I'm like, yeah, okay. Give me a minute here. But you can see I had to cut these arcs into the wood, and I had to bend the trim too as well with these arcs on both sides of the room. So how do you cut an arc these days? Well, I mean, you either have a CNC, like a router CNC machine, or the way I did this one is I told the boss, look, there's so much carpentry to be done in this place. I'm going to need a woodworking bench in the building. This is not something that we can go travel off-site and do and then bring it back. I mean, it's just, we might as well just do it here. So I built a crappy, out of plywood and 2x4s, little woodworking bench. I used pipe clamps. You can see them sticking out of the sides as like a vise for the sides just to get me by. But to do the arcs, I had to make this wood, draw a center line down the center, and just rig up this whole thing where I had this screw and this pendulum, and I used my shop router to just plunge in and cut the arc, and it cut it out perfectly, and it came out pretty nice. But then there's times where you have to cut arcs that are so big. So right now I'm working on a fire escape. It's in the front of the building, so it's not just a piece of the building, it's the whole building. It's the whole front of the building, so it's a massive arc. It's huge. So the pendulum that I would need for something like that would be 15 feet long, 20 feet long, I don't know. So it's like, okay, that's not going to work. I don't have a 4 foot by 8 foot CNC machine. That's just too big and too expensive. 15, 20 grand, dude, no thank you. But what if I could get a hand plane? Like for making things flat, I can get things generally flat by hand with different tools that you have. You know, but even like a thickness planer has a helical blade that's round, so it leaves these little scallop marks in the board. So it's nice to have those hand planes to flatten it out, right? It takes that even machine error, but it will take the human error out of things because you have a flat sole, it's machine perfect flat, and then you have a blade that just takes off the high points until you're flat. So I wonder if they make something like that for something arced or round. And they do. It's called a compass plane. But the problem is that they don't make these anymore. So I found this on eBay for $160. From the research that I've done, this was made in England in the 1880s, 1870s. I mean, they might have made these up until the early 1900s. But beyond that, they stopped making them. They do not make these anymore. This is a Stanley Rule and Level Company, number 113. So obviously this came from another carpenter because it came perfectly sharpened, and it looks like he maintained it. It's not like a big ball of rust. I mean, there's a little bit of rust on it that I'm gonna probably clean it up and oil it at some point. But this is like a normal hand plane, except you can see these little gears on the sides, and you basically take this knob and twist it. And you can see it's bending the sole up. Or you can twist it the other way. And it will start to bend the sole down. So you can do convex and concave arcs. So I was doing some deck boards, and basically I had to use what I had to get them done, right, for this fire escape. So we used mahogany, 1-inch thick mahogany boards. And basically I wanted to make a template out of plywood or just some scrap wood. So I took plywood and I got an arc finding tool on Amazon. It's like this big metal band that has a frame behind it, and you can lock it in place to get your arc. Then you can put that scribing tool on a piece of wood and trace it on, bring it down 5 inches, trace it again, and there you go. There's the board that I need. But then I had to cut it out with a jigsaw because I don't have a bandsaw or anything like that. I have very, limited shop tools. So I used a jigsaw to cut out the general shape, just left it a little bit big. I didn't take the line off, I just left it a little bit big. And this really would have come in handy for the next part, which would have been taking the human error out. But I didn't have this, I ordered it, just didn't come in time. So I had to use a sander. I used a belt sander to try to, clean up the template as much as I could. But I could not get it perfect, and I felt like every time I hit it with the sander, I made it worse. But this, if I had this, I could have got it absolutely dead perfect. Had that template absolutely perfect before I placed it onto the deck boards and used it as a template with a flush trim router bit to cut out the deck boards. But I figure the deck boards are still a little bit big, and I will have a second opportunity before I install them, if need be. I mean, they are just deck boards after all. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, but if something needs to be kind of fixed up a little bit, something's too noticeable, I'm going to take this and use this to clean up my arcs. And that is the beauty of these things, is they don't take up that much room. I don't need a big giant freaking machine. And this was, on the grand scheme of things, this wasn't that expensive. And I just think this is so cool though, man. Like, come on. This is a badass piece of like history right here. And obviously they made this and they made it well, because it's lasted a long, long time. And it's still going. It's still functioning probably just like the day it was new. Which is pretty crazy if you think about it. Like, how many generations have used this tool? Like, if I was that carpenter, I wouldn't have sold this. I mean, this is a piece of woodworking history, man. I mean, look at even the dovetail they put in the bottom there. They dovetailed the metal in and pressed it in there. That is so cool, man. But yeah, anyways, guys, I just felt like sharing these hand planes, man. I mean, I can't talk about them enough. I love hand planes. I feel like if you're a finished carpenter, like, there's been a few occasions where I've walked up to a finished carpentry company and there's like 4 or 5 guys finishing a house, and I'm just curious. Sometimes I'll walk over and talk to them, be like, hey, what kind of hand planes do you guys have? What kind of hand planes do you guys use? And they're all looking at me like, what are you talking about? We don't use hand planes. I'm like, you're a finished carpenter and you don't use hand planes? I mean, what's going on today? I feel like this is a dying thing. It's like, it's not, people don't want to use these old tools, but when these are sharp and working good, these are so nice to have. And I feel like these bring your woodworking to the next level. They really do. But yeah, anyways, guys, just feel like sharing. See you later.